What's up, guys? We're here a little late with a deck profile, so why don't you tell us who you are and what you played?
Hey, I'm Nate Davis. I played DDD at the Lubbock Regionals.
What place you get?
55th.
Hey, that's not bad for the first regional.
Yeah, it was my first one I've been to, so I had a lot of fun. This deck is so much fun to pilot. Very rewarding if you do it well.
Super punishing if you do it bad, very warning if you do it well. So let's see the deck.
All right, so first is standard 3D DD Savant Kepler. So as long as you're playing the Rage Cerberus engine, sorry EU, this is a 1-card combo. Sets up a basic board. It's not terrible. It's definitely a 3 of. You have to max it out. Next is another staple at 3, DD Savant Copernicus. If you open Dark Contract with the Gate and search this, it becomes a 1-card combo with DD Lamia. Being able to dump any DD or Dark Contract, it's pretty good. DD Griffin. So I hadn't read this card when Battlecast came out, but once I heard DD was making a splash, I read this card and I was like, wow, that's why. This card plus any DD is full combo. It's insane. It has 4 effects and they're all relevant. Next is another staple at 3, DD Swirl Slime. DD Swirl Slime is a fusion from hand. It also can banish it for cost from graveyard to special one from hand. So a lot of potential with this card. If you open this card, any DD and Griffin, it is Barone plus full combo. That's it for the monsters at 3. Let me do the one-ofs. So one-ofs, of course, the one Go DD Divine Zero King Rage. At 1, there's a few times I planned on cutting this and the other card for the combo, DD Cerberus. But Cerberus is okay because it's a level 4 DD. Other than that, kind of sucks. And then Rage, I mean, I did kill a Virtual World Brave player with his effect where he can attack directly. And if your opponent's life points are 4,000 less when you declare an attack, you can make its attack equal to their life points. These 2 cards are essential to play if you're in America, I feel, because of DD Savant Kepler. If you only open Kepler, you can at least combo off. If you don't play these, you're stuck doing nothing. Next for the one-ofs, one-of Lamia. What's not to love about a monster that specials itself? That's a tuner, right? It's a good one-of. DD Vice Typhon, another. I used to play it at 2 a long time ago. Summons a level 8 or higher fusion, so you summon out the big Genghis with it. You can also, there's some cool plays where you summon this from grave with Lamia, and you can Synchro 8 into the Synchro 8 Siegfried. Ragnarok, one of the best cards you can scale. I scale it every opportunity I have where I don't need to scale anything else. This card is insane because it can summon one. Its pendulum effect will summon one from grave. You take 1,000, your opponent takes half battle damage, which that effect I sometimes forget. On field, people forget about this one, but it's also removal. You contribute a DD monster and banish any monster by targeting it. So, unfortunately, you can't out Dragoon with it, but you can out a lot of problem cards with this, and I did. I forget what I outed, actually, but I outed something I couldn't out. I think it was a big Nibiru token. DD Savant Thomas. I've debated cutting this, but I never will because it comes up so often. If you cannot full combo, but you have a Griffin, if you have 1 level 4 like Copernicus, you can special summon that with the Pendulum. Then Griffin effect, if you have a Dark Contract to pop itself, puts it in the extra deck. Thomas effect will add it back, and then you can special summon it with its own effect and then go into full combo. Any 2 level 4 DDs is full combo in this deck. Its main effect is kind of great, but I don't use it that often. Last 2 one-ofs, DD Orthros. So his scale effect makes back row decks almost obsolete against DDD, and it's a level 4 tuner, so in the Barone combo you normal summon this usually to make Barone with small Genghis. Finally, the last one of DD monster is Necro Slime. It's a fusion from grave, it's insane, you can't not play this card. You can't not play it. That's it for the monsters minus the hand traps. Next I'll show you 3 Dark Contract with the Gate. It's a Rhoda for the archetype that's searchable itself. It's impossible to play this deck without this card. This one's heavily debated. I play 3 Small World. So Small World plus Archfiend Eccentric turns any hand trap except for Ghost Ogre and any DD into any other DD monster. This card lets you search every single card in your deck, including hand traps. It's crazy. People debate playing it all the time because it technically is a neg-1, but I can't see myself ever cutting it because it's saved me countless times. More consistency, 2 pure remap. So originally I was playing 40 and I had 9 hand traps, 3, 3, and 3. But I added this to make my deck 42, and my consistency is crazy. I don't see it all that often, but the 42 card deck just changes the math enough that I don't constantly brick on too many hand traps and not enough playable cards. Next, Dark Contract with the Swamp King. It's a fusion card, so you can fuse from your graveyard or remove stuff from your field if you're trying to free up link space or just get rid of cards. In the 1-card combo, you search this off a DD Caesar, the rank 4. 1 for 1, turn any card into Kepler, Lamia, or Necro Slime, and it helps you combo off, basically. It's consistency, so it's hard to say whether or not you cut it. I would not. 1 Dark Contract with Patent License. So, I didn't resolve this card's effect very often, but I did resolve it against a Sword Soul player, and they didn't read it, so they kind of just lost because they couldn't play. Basically, if your opponent summons a monster with the same monster card type as a DD monster you control, Xyz, Fusion, Synchro, or Link, you burn your opponent 1,000, and they can't summon that card anymore that turn, or that type of monster anymore that turn, as long as this card's face up on the field. So if they don't Ghost Ogre it, it just sits there, and they link once. Prank Kids loses to this card. Any deck that links especially loses to this card. And it has effect to add 1 from grave or extra deck face up to your hand too when it goes to grave, which isn't terrible. Doesn't come up as much, but some combos send this to grave. Last DD card in the main, DD Headhunt. Basically, it's searchable Crackdown. You steal an opponent's monster, you negate its effects, and it can't attack, and it goes to graveyard during the end phase of the next turn. Most combos, you search this off a DD Griffin because it is a DD card. That's it for the main deck, other than hand traps. So my lineup right now is 3 Veiler, 2 Lancia, 2 Token Collector, and 2 Ghost Ogre. And the reason I play the 2s instead of 3 of 2 hand traps is I kept bricking on 2 of any one of these hand traps and 1 of another. So you want to open 3 hand traps, but not 2 of the same one if it's Ogre and Nibiru, for example. Once I did that, I stopped bricking as hard. So that's just my opinion. Obviously, y'all play it how you want. Next, I'll do the extra deck. My extra deck's pretty standard. Most DD extra decks look the same. 3 Gilgamesh, one of the best cards in the deck. It places 2 scales from your deck into your pendulum zones. The funny thing about this card is it completely negates anti-spell because it plays around it. I actually laughed because I had an opponent side anti-spell for me at the Lubbock Regionals, and I said, cool, bro. And then I link summon this, and it places scales, not activates them. So it does nothing. Anti-spell does nothing to this deck. It does lock you into DDs after you do that, so plan appropriately with your combos. Next, we'll get into fusions. 2 DD Genghis. So Genghis is a summon from grave, and he's a level 6. So him plus Orthros is 10, so Barone. 2 of these together. The reason you play 2 is most combos you summon both in the turn, and then you overlay for DD Wave High King Caesar. Next, last 2 fusions, DD Oracle King Diarch and DD High Flame King Genghis. So he does the same thing Little Genghis does. When you special summon a DD monster, he'll special 1 from grave. But he also, on your turn, is a spell and trap negate. This card is amazing against back row decks because they think, oh, it's just another DD monster. But it also has a negate. They forget about that a lot. And then Diarch wins you in time, and it also is just a triple D, so you can go into the Xyz monster. That's it for the fusions. Next for the synchros, I play 2. 1 Curse King Siegfried and 1 Barone. You don't make Barone all the time, but when you can, it's usually good to, because you can still go into your combos after you've made Barone. There was a time where I made Barone and couldn't combo. That was when I was still learning how the new deck functions. And then Siegfried is a must-play for Patent License against Sword Soul, and it's a Spell and Trap Negate. So if you can summon it, why not have an extra Spell and Trap Negate? Finally, we'll get to the Exes. So 1 DD Wave King Caesar. His effect doesn't come up very often. His first effect does not come up very often, but you can detach one to summon back any monsters that were destroyed during this battle phase at the end of the battle phase. Mostly, you use the effect to search a Dark Contract when he hits Grave. His is hard once per turn, but the next one, Marksman King Tell, you overlay on top of him because of Marksman King Tell's effect. Then you can burn your opponent 1,000 when you take damage from Gilgamesh, because you do take 1,000 when you place those scales. And when you link it away, it's a foolish for DD or Dark Contract, just like Copernicus. And then summoning this guy back, you can search a Dark Contract, typically Swamp King. It depends on how your hand goes, but these two are definitely must-plays for the combo. Next, DD Wave High King Caesar. Solemn Warning on legs, that makes your monsters gain 1,800 attack. What's not to love, right? You overlay 2 Genghis into him, like I said before, and your opponent has a tough time playing. This hits anything that would special summon a monster, spell trap or monster effect. It doesn't hit inherent summons, unfortunately, but not a lot does. One of the best, probably my favorite extra deck card in this entire deck, DD Divisor King Deuce Machinex. So it's a wall of text like most DD cards are, which is the strength of this deck, is you know what your cards do and your opponent typically doesn't. Basically, he overlays on any triple D monster, and when your opponent activates a monster effect, you either activate the effect of a monster card they control, which includes Pendulum Scales, because they're monster cards. You destroy a Dark Contract or detach 2 for cost to attach that as material. A lot of people think it's a negate. It's not. I don't know why they think that, but they tend to. But it steals stuff. So, like, I can't even think of any examples, but there's stuff I've stolen from the field and then my opponent couldn't play. So this card's nasty. It is a pendulum, so it goes face up in the extra deck afterwards, and it does have an effect to place itself in the scale, but that never comes up. Last card in the extra deck is Zeus. I mean, you make Machinex, you attack, you make Zeus. That's it. That's why we play Zeus. He's a good card. If you're playing an Xyz deck, you pretty much have to play Zeus. I've seen it debated. I personally won't. Next to the side. So this deck sides differently than most. You pretty much only play hand traps in the side. So Gamma package, going second Gamma in this deck is crazy. You activate Gate, they go Ash, you go Gamma. That's just an example I've had. Droll, because Droll hits a lot of other decks. This deck does unfortunately lose to Droll most of the time. 2 Nib. And then the third of the 2 of hand traps that I play. I like to have 3 of these, because the third one in the side, because I can tailor my hand traps for what I'm playing against. And if I just want to replace 2 for 2, I can also do that. Last hand trap, double imperm. You don't main imperm because most combos you fill up your back row. You got the 2 scales, Gate, Swamp King, and then Headhunt. So you can't. It's pretty hard to play this in the main. I've seen a lot of people do it. I don't like it personally. Last 2 cards are DD specific. Dark Contract with Eternal Darkness. People do not read this card. I don't understand why, but they do not read this card, and then they lose to this card. I had a Sword Soul player twice lose to this card because they can't Synchro Summon. If you control scales, your opponent can't Tribute Summon, target monsters in the field with Spell Trap effects, or use monsters in the field to Synchro, Fusion, or Xyz. So, I don't get why people don't read this card, but this card is nasty. And finally, to negate all trap decks, Dark Contract with Arrows. Both of these are searchable with your Caesar effect, so if you're playing against Eldritch, sorry Eldritch players, but Dark Contract with Errors is a trap stun. That's searchable. So that's it for my list. I hope you all enjoyed.
All right.
And have fun playing the best deck of the format.
Debatable, but appreciate the deck profile.